So I have already color blocked out this dress and we're gonna put patterns on it and we're gonna learn how to do some advanced transformations on these patterns in Photoshop. So I'm not going to use this just yet. I'm actually going to make a new fill layer, new fill layer pattern, just like we did last week. But I'm gonna make it just the whole page, so it's gonna be pretty big. And I want to scale it a little bit. And remember, it really likes 25 factors of 25, so 25, 50, and 75. Sure, so we'll do that just so we can really see what's going on. It'll have a lot of stripes in it. And I can hit OK. So this is covering the whole shape. And right now it's a pattern fill layer, so it's not going to act like a normal layer when we go to like draw on it and write on it, or if we went to transform it. So we are going to rasterize this layer. So right click rasterize layer. This might be familiar to you from working with pictures in Photoshop. You can't really edit them until you rasterize them, depending on how you brought them in. Okay, so now it's just a normal layer. And if we would like to, we can hit Command T, or we could have gone to Edit Free Transform. And this puts you into a free transform mode, so I could rotate. And I'm kind of thinking, right, about how it's going to interact with the garment when I rotate it. So this would be one option, right? And we could scale it and adjust it in all of those ways that we kind of expect. So even just giving it a rotation can sometimes be helpful. And then just to walk through how we would put it on part of the garment really quick. Maybe I can put it across the top piece. I'll just shut this layer off for a second and turn on my color blocking layer, and I can grab it. And then back on this layer, if I hit delete right now, it deletes the wrong part. Oops. So we want to go to select inverse, and now the marching ants around the outside indicate that it'll delete the right part, right? So we could have that piece on there. And that actually doesn't look too bad. But for the bottom of this dress, I would really like for the pattern to have like a curve to it, right? So I'm going to make a new pattern fill layer and rasterize it again. And it could be that I just copy the last one. It doesn't really matter. And I think we did it at 25%. Right click on the layer, rasterize layer. And that's how we get it to act like normal, pixels. And I actually want to cut this down a little bit, so I'm going to make it, I can even lower it to I can change the layer so I can see my color blocking above it. I want maybe like this much to work with, so I'm going to delete the rest of it. Command Shift Inverse is how you do select inverse. Command deselect. So instead of going to edit free transform, which lets us do all of those normal transformations like scale and rotate, in edit transform warp, we get to control like areas of the pixels more precisely. So I can grab on just this corner and bring that corner up. And I can grab on just this corner and bring it up and really give a curve to the garment. And I can even grab on these center lines, right? And maybe I should have made this even a little bit smaller, even a little bit more cropped to her body. But we can give this some real, dimension. And if we would like, I'm going to hit Command Escape on that just for a second, because if we would like, we could lower the opacity on our color block layer, and then we could get a good idea for the pattern underneath it. So again, on our pattern fill layer, and maybe I'm gonna crop it a teeny bit closer to the garment. It really depends on how much you need. We can go to, with this layer selected, edit, transform, warp, and we can really start giving some distortion to this pattern, like it would as it wrapped around your body is the idea. And we can kind of try to gather more of the pattern at the edges, right, and spread the pattern out in the middle. And that helps with the illusion that it's wrapping around the body, right? So I'm kind of trying to bring some of the pattern into the edges of this green space. I'm going to clip it to the green space. So I actually don't need to worry about it touching the purple. Okay. Something like this, sure, it's great. So I can hit enter to apply that transformation, and you can see it has a lot of movement to it, and then we can clip it to the green layer just like we have previously. So magic wand tool, select the green, and I've taken the liberty of putting this whole dress in green, even like the spaces in between her fingers I filled in green, and then with contiguous unchecked, we can easily do it. I don't mind that anti-alias is checked for this part, because this is like a final stage. When I'm color blocking, I really like for anti-alias to be unchecked, because I like it to be able to select up to those pixels, up to the edge of the color, like every single pixel. But with this, giving it a soft edge isn't such a bad thing most of the time. So it depends on what you want. And then Command Shift Inverse, and make sure I'm on the correct layer, and hit delete. We can see it did actually give it a lot more movement than it had when it looked just like a flat image, right? And we can throw on our colors, our opacity settings, and multiply works really well there. That looks great, actually. And I am I guess I'll just do these sleeves really quick just to kind of review what we just went over. So I'm gonna make a layer. So I'll even select an area first, and then go to layer, new fill layer pattern, right, and fill it with this pattern we've been working with. And then I already have it cropped to the size that I want. So let's lower this. We can do, with this layer selected, it has to be rasterized first though. So I made the mistake of right-clicking on the thumbnail, and I want to right-click like on the open layer part to get to rasterize layer. They all have different submenus when you right-click on them. So with that layer rasterized and selected, we can go to Edit, Transform, Warp. So what is happening is that because I made it that other way, instead of like selecting the area and then select inverse and deleting it after I had rasterized it, it's just clipping mask to the area, which I just chose disable layer mask, and we could even delete the layer mask. I'm just right clicking on it and deleting it. And so now it's not trying to crop it to that anymore. And we can select and then do Command Shift Inverse and hit delete. Like I said first, my mistake. Anyway, we can then do Edit, Transform, Warp. And what's really happening on here, to break it down, is you've got, it's broken down into thirds, and then you've got handles, right, that are attached to your corner anchor points, and you can adjust these as you will, and they affect the line much like a vector. But we can also grab on the lines and move them, everything like that. So all I'm going to do on this, because it's such a little piece, is just bring in some of the, I'm going to kind of crunch it over here so that it looks like it's going away from you as it moves. And we can do Enter. And then with my color block layer selected, I can select this guy, do Command Shift Inverse, and hit delete. So in that way, we could fill in the rest of the pieces, and they would feel and look like a garment that's actually cut from cloth, or they would get closer to it anyway. Okay.